Here in Pittsburgh, we've been experimenting with the gift economy purely because of an essay that Charles wrote through his blog on realitysandwich.com. The essay is called A Circle of Gifts. And in this essay, it describes a thing called a gift circle. And many of the people here I actually met through a gift circle because after reading the essay, we started having these gift circles here, and we've had about 8 or 9 of them. And it's a way of connecting people's needs and people's gifts, which is really what an economy is set to do. And so Charles today will be speaking about sacred economics as well as many other things, I presume. So on behalf of Transition Pittsburgh, which is the group which we've been doing the gift circles through, Transition Pittsburgh is part of the Transition Town movement, which is a global movement, and another focused on community resilience. Another group sponsoring this event is Evolver Pittsburgh, which is related to the website Reality Sandwich, which he's a writer for, and that's a global social movement. And the third sponsor of this event is Sustainable the Metamentary, which is a documentary that many of these folks are working on, which asks the question, what is sustainability? And so without further ado, I'd like to give a round of applause for Charles Eisenstein and welcome him to Pittsburgh.
Thanks, Kevin. And thank you all for your patience. Maybe you weren't patient, maybe you were stewing in frustration. That's what I always think when I'm on hold, and they finally say thank you for your patience. Like, how do you know I was patient? But we had technical difficulties. They had to set up the teleprompter. That's what I have to say. Yeah, so I'm Charles. And now, I don't want to mess with the videotaping too much, but here I am stuck behind this podium. And I was thinking, what is it about a podium that I don't like? Well, for one thing, I can have my secret notes here, right? So then I can be speaking what is prepared in advance and not actually being in relationship to the audience. The other thing, though, is it hides most of me and only shows the head, which in our culture is somehow considered the most important part. That's where change is supposed to come from. We're supposed to have an idea and then convince other people of that idea, and through the power of intellect and reason, change the world. That idea is hundreds of years old. It definitely goes back to Descartes. Who said the way to change things is you go into a dark room in isolation from everything else, and you enter the realm of pure meditation, and you come out with the idea, and there it is. And on a social level, on a collective level, we're doing that too. We kind of send the scientists or send the technocrats in, and they come up with the answers, and we're all waiting for the experts to do it. And so this podium kind of taps into that. So it kind of makes me into this head, this expert, who is going to broadcast the answer out to you guys. But I think we all recognize that paradigm is becoming obsolete. Therefore, I would like to liberate myself from the podium. Say goodbye. I can liberate the mic from the podium too with that. All right. So hopefully this video people can handle it. All right. Good. Now more exposed here. Maybe I'll talk a little bit about the title of the book, Sacred Economics. Because if anything isn't sacred, it's probably economics, which, well, it depends what you think economics is. But when economists talk about economics, they're really talking about money. And money is self-evidently the opposite of the sacred in our world, in the world we live in. Even though as Kevin was saying, really the purpose of money is to connect gifts and needs. It's just to facilitate the flow of gifts. At its core, it's a really beautiful thing. You know, it's like, here I have something I'd like to give it to you. And you feel gratitude, you love to give something to me, but you just don't have anything that I need right now. So we have this wonderful thing called money. You can give me this worthless thing instead, this shiny piece of useless metal, or this cowrie necklace, this string of wampum, this useless thing. Give that to me, and it says, you know, I really want to give you something, but I can't. Here's a token of my gratitude. That's what money is supposed to be. Did I do historical research and find out that that's what money once was? No, not really. Although that thread has always existed, that spirit has always inhabited money. It's coexisted with another spirit for a very long time, but we can kind of recognize it. You know, when I say that, maybe I'm imagining things, but it strikes a chord of like, yeah, that's what it's supposed to be. Money's supposed to be a token of gratitude. And it's supposed to connect gifts and needs and make us all richer. It's supposed to enable us, to encourage us to give our gifts and to show gratitude. And the reason, and that sounds pretty sacred to me, but the reason I say that if anything is sacred, if anything is not sacred today, it's money, is that we're living in a world now where it seems very much that money is having the opposite effect. It's not helping us circulate our gifts and express our gifts. It's actually stopping us from doing it. Maybe many of you have experienced this in your lives, especially if you're an artist or a musician or pretty much anyone. The thing that you really want to do, that's coming from your heart, that's the most generous, beautiful thing to do, that's not usually where the money is. Money is in something that you don't really want to do that much. Maybe it's in something that's downright odious, something that is repugnant. Or maybe the money's in something that, well, I guess it's okay. I mean, I suppose that job is, at least it's somewhat challenging and it's not objectionable. You know, I'm doing it for the money. It's practical. I should be thankful. It's a better job than most people have. That's where the money is. So, for example, if you want to go out there and restore ecosystems, say you find some barrels of leaking toxic waste somewhere, and you take it upon yourself to organize lots of people to go clean up that toxic waste. Are you going to get rich that way? Or are you going to get rich, say, being a lobbyist for chemical companies to pass laws to enable more toxic waste to get thrown into the environment? That's where the money is. Why? Why should it be that way? Money, on a collective level, it's supposed to say to individuals and to corporations or to anybody, it's supposed to say, here's what our society wants right now. Here's what we value. But today, that incentive, that signal of what our society values is going toward things that rip apart society and are destroying the planet. And so why should that be? And that's just the beginning of the problem or the non-sacredness of money. But so in writing this book, I kind of touched on that original true essence of money and what it's supposed to be. And I thought, now it's an opportune moment, because the money system, as we know it, is falling apart. And that's good, because that gives us the opportunity to create something new. Or perhaps, instead of saying it's falling apart, we can say that it's going through a transition. It's metamorphosizing into something new. So, really, what my work is about is making money sacred again. Money has a magical power. It's very therefore, we can't afford to do the things that we can once do. People say, well, yeah, we can't afford to have, well, here we are at Pitt, okay? Higher education used to be basically free a generation ago in the 60s. Public universities they cost almost nothing. Well, since then, the cost of a university education has gone up way faster than inflation, way faster than anything else except for medical care. So we can't afford that anymore. We can't afford to pay for everybody's medical care. We can't afford to build a big system of rail like we could afford 50 years ago to build an interstate highway system. Well, what is this can't afford? What does that really mean? It means that certain bits in computers are in the wrong configuration. It means this can't afford exists purely on a symbolic level. On a material level, we have all of the skills and materials and technologies necessary to do all of these things. There's nothing that we had in the 50s or 60s that we don't have today that would allow us to build whatever we want on this planet, to create a society that we want. It's not a lack of material, it's not a lack of skill. What is lacking? It's this magical thing, it's this symbol, it's nothing that has such power that paralyzes us. So you can say that money is losing its magic power. Money, as we know it, is losing its magic power. It's not only the common people that experience that, even the elites now. The elites are feeling like things are getting out of control. Ben Bernanke or whoever, they go up there, they deliver their ritual incantations, and the economy doesn't respond the way that they want it to. And you can see the breakdown of our system of magic in the impasse that's going on in Congress today. They're wielding these words, but they don't believe them anymore. We don't believe them anymore. And the system is heading towards gridlock. And so this is just one of the signs of breakdown that we're experiencing. So what I did with this book then is in the first third of the book, I investigate how we got where we are today, how money has come to encourage the very opposite of what we want to create, of the manifestation of our gifts. Why it is that you can make money dumping toxic waste but not cleaning it up. Why should that be? What is it about money that causes that? And in the second third of the book, I then describe what a money system would look like that did the opposite. A money system, what would it look like what would have to happen for there to be more money in cleaning up toxic waste than in dumping it? More money in restoring the wetlands than in chopping down the forest? More money in teaching people to plant gardens in the inner city than to lobby for Monsanto and push chemical agriculture? Like, what would money have to look like to be the ally of the things that are becoming beautiful to us, the things that are becoming sacred to us? And then the third part of the book is basically taking this shift onto a personal level. Because, in other words, how to live in alignment with this new system of money, which isn't just a vision, it's actually something that's coming. It's a transition that's already underway. And we can see signs of it in certain trends in the economy. For example, the trend toward gift economics that Kevin was talking about. It's not just idealistic young people coming together. The internet is very much a gift economy. And we're entering an age where many goods are becoming zero cost. So, for example, digital content. And in the book, I talk a lot more about this transition and how it's happening. But I think ultimately the music industry. Why are we doing it this way? We get to the money. So money is at the heart of our way of life. And as I'll explain, it actually embodies the defining myths of our civilization, which I call the story of the people. So part of what I write about, what I speak about, is this personal shift into alignment with sacred economy. And it's something that we can start doing right now. I always find, when I listen to a speaker and they talk about the solutions part, right? First they talk about the problems part, and that can be really dispiriting. Things are terrible. Okay, I get it. I heard that before. Now, how about the solutions? And the solutions are supposed to be empowering. The solutions, we must reduce carbon emissions by 90% within 20 years. We must do this. We must develop alternative energy sources. But to me, that's actually dispiriting too, because quite evidently, we're not doing any of those things. These problems have been known for 30, 40 years in the environmental sphere. We've known about the dangers of greenhouse gases. But in the last 30 years, greenhouse gas emissions have doubled. I remember when I was a teenager reading these alarmist reports about disappearing rainforests and these maps of what it looks like, in 1900, what it looks like now, projections for 2000, et cetera, et cetera. We understood it, and it kept progressing anyway. And so when I hear we should do this, we should do that, I think, well, who's we? And am I powerful to make this happen in a way beyond, then here's what you can do. And then say, well, you can change your light bulbs into CFCs, or you can, recycle your whiskey bottles, or something like that. Or if you take it to an extreme, what you can do is you can go into the woods and not consume anything anymore, and live off the roots and berries. You can conserve. And on some level, that's disempowering too. Because what do you do that well, how are you helping the world transition by doing that? And then there's the whole matter of Yeager's paradox, which maybe a few of you know about, which basically says conservation doesn't work because you're just going to make those resources cheaper for somebody else, and they're going to use even more of them. So we understand that a deeper shift is necessary. That includes everything, because money's implicated in everything. It's tied into everything. So, I always wonder how to enter into this material, and I can't cover the whole book. It's like a 500-page book. And I always wonder, should I go into the nitty-gritty, and then, half the people will get glazed over, or should I stay with the big picture? I usually try to do a little bit of both. But let me talk a little bit about let me answer that question. Why money today is the enemy of the beautiful things that we want to do, and the sacred things that we want to do. What is it about money that makes it that way? It has to do with the way that money is created, and the way that money circulates in our current system. Money was created as a debt, an interest-bearing debt. Either at the base level, the government issues a bond, and the Federal Reserve indirectly buys that bond, and just creates that money out of nowhere. Every time that happens, more money is owed than was actually created, because there's interest on that debt. That's when they say the government's creating money, it's actually the Federal Reserve. The government's just issuing debt. And so the government's going to have to pay back even more debt. Now, where's this extra money going to come from? And this is on the consumer level too, or on the business level. Money is created when a bank issues a loan. I'll loan you $1 million. And let's see, how about you're a creditworthy borrower, so 7% interest, 10 years, pay back $2 million. That's how much $1 million is after 10 years at 7% interest. Okay, so I'll lend you $1 million, you're going to pay back $2 million. It's not just some money that's created like this, all money is. So I'm going to lend everybody in this room $1 million. Okay? And in 10 years, everybody in this room has to pay me back $2 million. Well, where's that extra? How many people are here? 80 people. Where's that extra $80 million going to come from? How are you going to get $2 million? Well, one way you can do it is to take it from him, right? So, an interest-based money system induces competition. There's never enough. Or you go bankrupt. Either you get it from somebody else or you go bankrupt. Now, that's an oversimplification, because in the real economy, how does that money get paid back? Well, by the time 10 years rolls around, I will have lent you even more money. I lend even more money to pay interest on the existing money. And who do I lend money to? Not just everybody. I only lend money to you if I think you're going to pay it back. If I think you're going to create goods and services and sell them. Or you're going to get a job working for somebody who's going to create goods and services and sell them. So let me just slow down a minute, because I don't want people to get lost. It's actually very simple. It's, I will give you money if you will earn even more of it. Either you're an entrepreneur, you have a great business idea. You say, Charles, I'm going to, see that forest out there? I'm going to cut that down. I'm going to build houses. And with your $1 million, I'm going to make $5 million. I'm going to pay you back $2 million interest. And I'm going to make $3 million. I'm going to be rich. And I'll be like, you're a fine young man, Kevin. That's a good business idea. Here's your loan. Now, maybe not all of you are as entrepreneurial as him. Maybe you'll just go to work for him. He'll pay you a salary. That's where the money's coming from. Now, if someone comes to me with a business idea, I'd like that $1 million to clean up that toxic waste dump. And I guess I won't pay back. But it's really important. You're like, sorry, I would like to clean it up too, but you know, my bank owes money too. I have my bondholders, I have my shareholders. If I lend money like that, I'm going to go out of business. I'm sorry, I can't do that. So money is going to the people who will create goods and services. But it's never quite enough. So what I've basically just explained is how money that's created as interest-bearing debt causes competition. It also causes and necessitates growth, economic growth. How are you going to get, who's going to get the money? It's the person who's going to create goods and services. It's the person who's going to take that forest, cut it down, and make lumber and sell it as a commodity. It's the person who's going to go in and say, like, it's not just, okay, that's goods, okay? It's going to be like, goods are, you're going to take something of nature and turn it into a commodity. You're going to drill oil out of the ground and sell it. You're going to catch the fish and turn them into sushi. You're going to take an ecosystem and cut it down, plant crops there, and make corn syrup, okay? That's the conversion of nature into goods. That's one way. The second way is to take relationships and convert them into services. So here's Kevin again, who comes with another business idea. Says, you know, there's this community out there, and they don't have childcare. They don't have daycare. Instead, they have this cooperative system where they take care of each other's kids and don't pay for it. I'm going to go in there and open a daycare center. And for that to work, I'm going to, with advertising, I'm going to convince them that really only educated experts should be allowed to take care of children. Maybe I'll even pass some legislation to make it illegal to educate your own children. gift circle, or a time bank, you get people together to exchange things without money, you are actually hurting GDP. You are reducing the size of the economy. It's economic degrowth. Anytime you do something for yourself, you gain a skill, you teach a skill that allows somebody to do something without money, you are slowing down the economy, which is the opposite of what politicians want us to do. Or, whatever, from Barack Obama to Eric Camp George, everybody in between, left, right, center, they all believe that the solution to our economic problems is to reignite economic growth, get the economy growing again, which means converting more of nature into goods, more of relationships and services. So another example, when I was a kid, we rarely ate at a restaurant. Like once a month, maybe twice a month. Mostly, Mom went to the store, she bought raw ingredients, and she cooked dinner. And so this service of cooking, of food preparation, was not, by and large, it was not in the money economy. Most people did it themselves, for their families, and that's called a gift. If you do it without money, it's a gift, okay? So it's a gift relationship. Today, something close to 2/3 of all meals are prepared outside the home. Even if you go to the supermarket, you get the takeout from the deli. People don't make stuff from raw ingredients very much anymore. So now that's become a service. That conversion has caused the economy to grow a lot. That's been a major growth industry, as has childcare. And if you want to get rich, all you have to do is find something that people still do for themselves and turn it into a service. Like, for example, mentorship. For tens of thousands of years, tribal elders have been mentoring us, or village elders. We learn, we get wise advice and encouragement from our elders. Now, you can pay a life coach to do that, or a psychologist or something like that. So there's an example of something. Medicine in general was once not a paid service. It was, if you got sick, you would go to, every other grandmother knew enough herbs to heal most conditions. And if grandma couldn't do it, then maybe you'd go to the, village shaman or whatever, an expert, and you would perhaps give a gift, but it wasn't a paid service. But now it's something we pay for. Entertainment, never a paid service. People sang, people danced, people made their own dramas, or their own ceremonies. Now again, it's something we pay for. So this is all driven and necessitated by interest on money. And it's okay. It kind of works, actually, as long as there's still something to convert into money. As long as there's still some nature left to convert into the word feet. And as long as there's still some gift relationships left to convert into professional services. But what happens when we run out? What happens when you can't increase the fish catch anymore because the fish are all extinct? And you can't cut down more forests or drill more oil because oil is all gone or dwindling. And when gift relationships are almost all gone, which this yearning for community is a symptom of the exhaustion of gift relationships that can be converted into money. So basically what's happening today is that there's no more room for growth. The ecosystem cannot sustain it anymore. We've exhausted almost all of the potential for growth. We could maybe grow a little bit more if we exploit the last refuges, like the Alaskan Wildlife Refuge. We can, pump a little bit more oil. We can squeeze this ecosystem a little bit more and get a little bit more, more goods and services out of it. But even that can't last too much longer. And we're all, in a way, we're doing it. We're trying to squeeze as much out of it as possible, which is when the economic crisis hits. You don't hear so much talk about conservation anymore, and there's a lot of pressure then to relax environmental standards, to make the environment more business friendly. That's what you see happening. But even doing all that, we still can't have the growth rates that we had in the 50s and 60s, when in a typical year you could have economic growth of 6 or 7%, like China has today. We can't get that much growth anymore. So the problem then is that goods and services can't increase as fast as interest does. There's less and less means to pay back these debts. So what happens is that wealth polarizes very quickly. Those who, if Kevin comes to me and says, I don't want a loan now because I don't really see any good investment opportunities. So I'm not going to be able to hire people either. So all of these people who need money, then they're going to essentially have to convert their assets into money, which is what we saw happen during the housing bubble, and their future earnings into money, pledge their income into the future, which is also what we see happening. Almost everybody's in debt now, unless you're wealthy. You're in debt. Graduate from college in debt, an average of $20,000 in debt, and you never ever pay it off. To shift from one thing to another, and so people are living their entire lives as slaves to debt. It's kind of peonage, just like serfs. In exchange for land, which they needed to live, they had to give whatever half the harvest to the Lord. And now, in exchange for money, which we need to live, we have to give half of our productivity to the owners of money. Everything we buy has a secret tax. Even if you're buying a chair, most of that price is the financing costs and capital equipment the factory had to buy using borrowed money, or the mortgage on the factory's land, the mortgage that the store pays, and all that goes to the owners of money. So, without going into more detail on that, you see it all around you. The rich are getting richer, the poor are getting poorer. That's what happens when you can't make new goods and services fast enough. And that's the crisis we're facing today. Would renewed economic growth solve the crisis? Temporarily, it would. If we can convert more of the earth into money, yeah, it would postpone it a few years. But what we really need is a system that doesn't demand the endless conversion of nature into money. And that means we need a system that's not based on interest-bearing debt. So, this is one of the pillars of my book. It's not all about interest-bearing debt. There are other characteristics of our money system that need to change. But this is one of the important ones. So, one of the ideas I play with in this book is what happens if money, instead of having interest and getting more and more valuable, what if it decayed? What if it had the opposite of interest? Last time I spoke somewhere, maybe the time before, someone, they had like some kind of big kind of food bank kind of operation, and one day they got this shipment of like all these potatoes, like bags and bags of potatoes, and they quickly put out the word to everybody. They said, we'll pay you to take these potatoes because they were going to go bad. So they basically gave away potatoes. It didn't do them any good to keep the potatoes, because you don't eat a certain number of potatoes before they go bad. Right? If I have bushels and bushels of potatoes here, I'm not going to keep them for myself. I'm going to want to get rid of them. I would be happy, in fact, to give you an interest-free loan of a 10-pound bag of potatoes. Because maybe in a year, I'll need potatoes. And I'd be happy to get a 10-pound bag. I don't need to say you have to give me 12 pounds or 20 pounds in a year. Because if I keep them, they're going to go bad. So what would happen if money were like that too? If we had a money system where if I had more money than I needed, and if I kept it, it would just go bad. It would decay, just like everything else on this planet. Then I would treat money the same way as I treat potatoes. On a deep level, one of the problems with our money system is that we have money which doesn't decay, but only grows forever. But we have that linked to a world that does decay. We have exponential money linked to a cyclical world where things are born, they live, they decay, they die, and they return to life. But money just grows and grows and grows. And so we've created a system where everything attached to money has to grow too, where the money realm has to grow and grow and grow to keep pace with the growth of money. Well, what would happen if money had the opposite characteristic, if it decayed? So that's one of the ideas that I play with in this book. And it's really, this is something that kindergartners should be able to understand. It's like, I have more than I need right now, so I will let you use it. That's what a zero interest loan is. People don't do that today because they can keep it and it'll grow. But if I keep it and it declines at 5% interest, then it would be to my advantage to give you an interest-bearing loan. So it aligns the spirit of the gift with financial incentive. Today, those things are opposite. Today, money is the opposite. It's the enemy of wanting to give to the world. Does that mean that we have to always live in this opposition? Always fight against money, fight against self-interest in order to serve the interests of others? Or can we change self-interest so that it aligns with the interests of others? Remember, that's what money's supposed to do. It's supposed to be society saying, thank you for doing the things that contribute to the benefit of us all. That's what money's supposed to do. So one way to do that is to reverse interest. Reversing interest has other important effects. So I want you all to pretend right now that you are the president of the world. Okay? You are the boss. You can make decisions on behalf of the entire planet. And now here come the aliens. Okay? ETs land on your lawn, and they say, Mr. President or Ms. President, we'd like to make you an offer. You know, if we run this planet sustainably, you get a gross world product of, say, $20 trillion a year. Well, we'll make you a better deal than that. We'll give you $1 quadrillion for the whole planet. We'll buy it off you right now, $1 quadrillion. And then, we'll liquidate it. We plan to remove the Earth's core for the iron, and we'll destroy the planet. You'll be rich. Mr. President, Mr. President, would you accept this offer? How many people would accept this offer? What's wrong with you guys? You guys are irrational. Actually, the sad thing is that we are doing it. We are cashing in the earth, and we're driven to do it by interest. We don't make a conscious decision to do that. But we make a billion little decisions that add up to the same thing. Say you own a forest. Okay, now you're not president of the earth anymore. Now you just own a forest. And you could clear cut it and pave it over and build a Walmart there for $10 million. Okay? Or $10 million right now, making the offer. That's my wallet. Or you could log it sustainably in perpetuity and make $100,000 a year. Which do you do? Well, interest on $10 million is $200,000 a year. And logging it sustainably is only $100,000 a year. So maybe you personally won't cash it in, but maybe you don't have a choice. Maybe it's your corporation. And you say, you know, we believe in sustainability. We're not going to maximize our profits. We're going to make $100,000 instead of $200,000. Then the corporate raider comes and says, oh, this company's undervalued because it's generating income of $100,000 from this asset, and it could generate income of $200,000. So the corporate raider leverages that differential. Basically takes out a loan, buys the company, liquidates the forest, uses part of that money to pay back the bank, and keeps part for himself. And to prevent that from happening, you have to raise the value of your stock by maximizing your cash flow and cutting down the forest. It's called market discipline. And it's built into the money system. Okay? Whether you're a nice guy or not. Okay, now, though, imagine again that you're the president of the world, but now money bears negative interest. Now the alien's offer is ridiculous, or your forest. Now it's much better to have $100,000 a year in perpetuity than to have an asset that will decay. So negative interest reverses what they call discounting the future cash flows. It negates the way of thinking where we value the present over the future and destroy them for future generations. Okay, so I've just given you a taste of kind of technical details of this book, and there's a lot more along those lines. If that's the kind of thing you're interested in, there's about a good solid third of the book that's about that kind of stuff. Now I want to expand to get some of the bigger picture. Because money doesn't exist in isolation from the other institutions of our culture. It's not like we can just change the money system and everything will be fine. The money system is part of the whole way of being on Earth that goes back thousands of years. It's part of the story of the people that I talked about before. And the story of the people has two parts. One is the story of itself, and the other is the story of the world. Money, as we know it, helps sustain these stories and keeps us trapped in these stories. The story of itself, up until today, has been, well, it wasn't this for primitive hunter-gatherers either. Okay? Increasingly, up until today, the story of itself, it answers the question, who are you? What does it to exist? It says that you are a separate being, separate from other beings, in a world that's outside of yourself. That's not part of you. And maybe even your body is not part of you. Maybe you're just this mode of consciousness or this soul that's encased in flesh but separate from the world. And everybody else is like that too. And therefore, what's in your interest isn't necessarily somebody else's interest. In fact, more than you can control. because everybody else is your competitor because we're in this outside objective universe. More for me is less for you, by definition, because we're separate. That's the self that we've been trapped in, increasingly, and that Descartes articulated. That you're a bubble of psychology. You're a consciousness inside flesh. Religion, science, they all pretty much agree on this. They formulate it in different ways, but they all pretty much agree. And even if intellectually now we're beginning to reject that we're all separate beings, and we're beginning to believe that something in you is in me, and that we're not really separate, and that what happens to any being on the planet actually is happening to me too. We're starting to realize that, but we're still trapped in many ways of thinking, and trapped by many institutions in the old way of being in separation. But anytime you say, well, there's lots of spiritual teachings that sound really good, but they're really coming from separation, such as you are not your body. You are something separate, you are the spiritual. Well, no wonder we treat our bodies as not sacred. And if matter and spirit are two separate things, no wonder we treat matter as not sacred. It's just a bunch of stuff. And we step away from the world and think that the spiritual person is somebody who doesn't have too much to do with the world, doesn't have too much to do with the flesh, certainly not in the marketplace. It's kind of non-involvement. A concern with higher things. Higher things. Well, what's so great about higher? Away from the earth. Separate from the dirt. Cleanliness is next to godliness. Or the obsession with purity, purification. Some spiritual paths are all about purification, being less fleshly. Okay, all of this, separation. And we're overcoming your biology, honing your willpower, dominating the flesh with the spirit, controlling your desire, not succumbing to desire, not giving in to pleasure. Okay, all of these things are part of this war against self, which mirrors the human war against nature. This is the war against your own nature. Externally, then, we have the story of the people, which says, it answers the question, what's humanity here on Earth for? What are we as a species? And it says, well, we're different from other animals. We are superior, and we are eventually going to dominate nature completely and become masters of nature. We're going to conquer nature. Back in the old days, we didn't really have much technology to do that, or much understanding. We had myth and superstition, but today we understand a lot more. We have technology. We're coming to dominate more and more parts of nature. Next is nanotechnology and genetic engineering and virtual reality. And soon we're going to complete this conquest. We're going to go into space. We're going to have synthetic food. We're going to conquer all disease, immortality, etc., etc., etc. That's the story of the people. That goes back to the days of agriculture, when we began to domesticate the world, return our species towards our purposes. And it's reaching its peak today. In fact, it's a little bit past its peak. It was much easier to believe in the 50s that we were going to conquer space, conquer the atom, conquer this, conquer that, and everybody believed in it and thought it was a great thing. One time, my dad was telling me, he's a kind of a liberal, very anti-nuclear power. And telling me back in the early days of atomic power, it was called, that they were saying, power will be too cheap to meter. The atom will give us such a source of inexhaustible power that we won't even have to meter it. You just have a hookup fee, all the power you want for free. And it's like, haha, you didn't believe that, did you? What did you think, Dad? He said, oh, I thought power would be too cheap to meter. Like, everybody believed it. But we don't believe it anymore. We don't really believe that we're going to have this magical future that's being prepared by the scientists right now that will be unveiled to us, like the Jetsons with our robot servants. We don't believe it. That story of domination is falling apart because really it hasn't been working very well for a long time. free country. Since then, we've gotten sicker, we've gotten busier, and the quality of life has gone down overall. And I'm speaking in a somewhat culture-centric way. Although, that's actually really tricky too. You can say that certain people in India are better off. Their GDP has gone up. And there's still lots of people living on $2 a day, but we're going to rescue them too. Hopefully, in 10 years, they'll have $10 a day. But what that really means is that things that they don't pay for now, they're going to start paying for. Yeah, we're going to help you convert your social capital and your natural capital into money too. And really what's going on is we're taking that and importing it. Because growth can't happen here anymore, so we're importing growth from other countries where there's a problem with the financial system. You can think that for yourself if you want, or read the book. So, now I explained, so here's the story of the self, separate. The story of the people, growth, ascent, conquest. And as I explained, money embodies both of those stories. So a new money system is going to be one that embodies the new stories. And what are those? We know what those are. The new story of the self is the connected self. The self of interbeing. It's more than just connection. Connection would be like, we're still separate, but we're connected. We depend on each other, interdependency. It's really more than interbeing. It's not just that I conditionally depend on you to whatever, my food or whatever goal you have. It's that your very being is part of my being. If you're just in the mode of interconnection, then you can say, well, some species are really important. They meet important human needs, but other ones are kind of expensive. And people will even what's the word? They'll laugh at environmentalists who want to protect the horned owl or whatever. Who cares about that owl? It's not that important. What's important is wheat, or maybe honeybees, pollinate things. Those are useful species. But what we're learning now is that every species has a crucial, indispensable role in the maintenance of the whole system. And that what happens to any being is, in fact, happening to us inescapably. And this is something that we can feel. You don't have to even accept intellectual logic of it to understand, to feel that when you see a seabird drenched in oil. It hurts, Like rationally, why should that hurt? Who cares? The separate self actually would prefer if other beings are suffering. Who cares? What happens to you if you're sick? Stay away from me. I want to insulate myself from you because I don't want to get your germs. That's the separate self. The connected self understands that your sickness is my sickness, and that any sickness I'm causing in the world, I'm actually causing to myself. And this is something that's happening in our society as the destruction of ecosystems is mirrored within our own bodies and within our own society. So, the new self, the new story of self is the connected self. And how about the new story of the people? Which says, what's important, what's valuable, what's real. The new story of the people. It says what's sacred. In the old story of the people, it was growth that was sacred. Growth was sacred. You can say that because money embodied growth, caused growth, is part of growth. You can say that money has always been sacred. And you can say that what's happening today is what is sacred to us is changing. So what's becoming sacred to us now? What's becoming, why don't you guys just tell me? What's becoming sacred to us now? Call it out.
Life.
Life. Community.
Clean air, clean water.
Clean air, clean water. Sharing.
Time.
Time. Okay. Organic food. others for the less intelligent, less capable people. That's where the best and brightest want to go. That's where everybody wants to go, actually. So we can see what this new story is. It's that we want to, I think first and foremost, is that we want to heal the damage that has been done in this journey of separation, where we become more and more separate from nature, more and more separate from each other. We want to heal that damage. Heal the damage to earth, heal the damage to society, heal the damage to ourselves. Because all of these wounds that we've caused also manifest as an inner wound. So the desire for community, for healing nature, it corresponds to a desire to heal ourselves too. So the way that I phrase it is the new story of the people is co-creative partnership with Earth, where we enter a new relationship to Earth. We've always treated Earth as a parent, a mother. And the love relationship with a mother, in terms of giving and receiving, is that you receive. And a father, too. So my relationship with my children is that I give. I don't seek to take from them. I don't, except for my oldest son, who I rent out to a salt mine. I don't really seek to profit off my children. I don't seek to take from them. My role is to give to them. And that's my role when I was a child, as my mother, is I receive. That's natural. That's the way it's supposed to be. And that's been humanity's role in relationship to the earth. But then, at some point, so that's childhood, right? And you grow, and you have that type of love relationship. And then you hit adolescence, and you stop growing. Physically. You stop getting bigger. And at that time, two things happen. The first thing is that a new kind of love relationship emerges, where you no longer simply desire to receive, and that's no longer right to just receive, but you want to give also, and you want to co-create, maybe with somebody, create a family, for example. But it's a different kind of partnership. It's not just receiving, and that is a new kind of relationship to Earth that humanity is entering, and started entering in the 60s when the environmental movement reached mass consciousness, and when we achieved the pinnacle of separation with actually going to the moon, actually separating from Earth, seeing Earth from the outside, and falling in love. So beautiful. We fell in love with Earth. Oh, I gotta read that part out loud. If I can find it here. All of the astronauts. Almost all the astronauts, here it is, who went up there and had this spiritual experience, and they fell in love with Earth. Here's Rusty Schweiker. From the moon, the Earth is so small and so fragile, and such a precious little spot in that universe that you can block it out with your thumb. Then you realize that on that spot, that little blue and white thing, is everything that means anything to you. All of history and music and poetry and art and death and birth and love, tears, joy, games, all of it right there on that little spot that you can cover with your thumb. And you realize from that perspective that you've changed forever, that there's something new there, that the relationship is no longer what it was. And so they beamed those photographs back from space, you know, and it seems like a kind of a cliche image today of Earth. But even today, we can feel something back then had a huge impact. And so humanity has, for the last 40, 50 years, been entering adulthood, entering this early adulthood, this first falling in love. And no longer desiring something to take from Earth. Even us from earth and destroy. They have to say, well, we're planting 2 trees for every tree we cut down. Or they have to greenwash themselves somehow, right? But that wasn't like 100 years ago. You didn't have to make excuses. You're like, yeah, baby, drill, cut down those forests. We're doing it faster. There was no concept of limiting taking or giving back. But today, that has changed. We're still learning, but no longer do we desire to merely receive from earth. And that's a profound change. Unfortunately, the money system that we have still embodies only receiving from earth. It doesn't encourage us, it doesn't align with our desire to give back to earth. And so another pillar of sacred economics that I describe as the internalization of external costs. Today, if you pollute, you don't have to pay those costs. Those costs are not reflected in the product. But there are ways to internalize those costs so that a product that makes a lot of pollution is way more expensive than a product that is produced without pollution. So therefore, if you're a bright young entrepreneur, even if you don't give a shit about ecology, for monetary purposes alone, you're going to want to make that product minimize pollution. But really what it does is it brings the sacred, which is a healthy planet, into alignment with money, which is where it's supposed to be. And that's what I call sacred economics. So, I was saying the third part of the book is aligning with this on a personal level. Not only does our money system kind of pull us back into this world of separation and taking, but we also have a lot of habits, a lot of ways of thinking that are often invisible to us, that are aligned with the separate person, separate self in the universe of other. And in various ways now, we're having opportunities to enter into a different way of being, of the connected self. What connects the connected self? One of the things that connects it, maybe the most important one, is kids. Just on a really basic level, if you live in, say, a hunter-gatherer tribe, in our economy, your good fortune is not my good fortune, necessarily. Probably not. If you make a lot of money, how does that benefit me? But in a hunter-gatherer tribe, if somebody has good fortune, then that's my good fortune too. Because hunter-gatherers don't accumulate. If they have more than they need, they share it. Just like that kindergartner idea, if I have more than I can use, I'll let you use it, of course. So that's in a gift culture, your good fortune is connected to my good fortune. And what I do unto you, I am in fact doing unto myself. The more I give, the more I will receive. We can begin to align ourselves with that by perceiving the world through the eyes of the gift. Because really that's why we're here. When I talk about money encouraging the expression of our purpose, really we are, part of the new story of the self, the connected self, is the story of the gift. It says, what am I here to give? Why am I here? As part of a larger being, a connected being, I am here to serve that being. And this isn't something that we have to fight ourselves to do. It's not this economist's world of altruism versus self-interest. This is our natural desire. Anyone who's been in a job that doesn't engage your gifts knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's excruciating. For a while, you can maybe assuage the pain of that. If you get paid enough money, you can distract yourself somehow with consumption or addictions, but it is intolerable. And in our generation, it's becoming more and more intolerable to do anything that feels like it's not your own life, it's someone else's life that they're paying you to live. So it's from the perspective of the separate self, it's irrational. It's crazy to think that you're here for any purpose except to maximize your reproductive self-interest. That's what biology says, or your economic self-interest. Why should I serve other beings? It's irrational. Well, the heart says, yes, I want to do that. The mind says, why? Give me a reason. There's no reason. And so there's a battle between the heart and the mind. That's a hallmark of our age, is the battle between the heart and the mind. But that is only unreasonable. It's only crazy from the logic of the separate self. And as we begin to realize on an experiential level our connectedness, then it no longer is crazy. And we're able to act on our desire. Oh, okay. A little closer. We're able to act on our desire to enter into the service of other beings, to give our gifts, really, is a better way to put it. Enter the service of other beings sounds like it's self-sacrificing, but it's really, it's that feeling, what am I put here on earth to do? I'm put here on earth to do something great. I'm put here on earth to do something magnificent. That's the knowledge that every teenager has. And one way to look at that, or if you're kind of wavering on that, is to realize that gratitude is the default state of our existence. Gratitude is the feeling that you get when you've received a gift and you know it and you desire, because I've received it, I desire to give. That's gratitude. And it's almost a feeling of amazement too. It's like, wow, a gift. It just came. I didn't do anything to earn it. I received it as a gift. And it makes me want to give also. Well, that was pretty much our first experience in life. That's the reason we're here. If you're born a little blob of flesh, you have nothing to give at that moment. You have no way of earning your food, of earning the protection, the love of your parents. And it's hard to take care of a baby. Babies have a lot of needs. And you didn't do anything to deserve that or to earn that. And you're never going to pay your parents back. Even if they weren't very good parents, even if you had no parents, at least somebody or some institution working through somebody took care of you for no good reason. And the natural response to that is gratitude. Like imagine if you walked out of this building today and instead of being on the big campus, you found yourself in this swirling maelstrom of bewildering colors and uncomfortable temperatures, and you're just totally lost and you can't even control your body, and you are hungry, you're helpless, you're scared, and then these giant beings come and take care of you, and they meet all your needs, make you feel so good, and they take care of you for years and years and years. Wow. You'd be pretty grateful to those beings. So we're born into gratitude. Plus, are we running out of time? Okay. Well, we're getting close, but this, so we're born into gratitude. Plus, we live on this planet. We didn't earn having a planet that supports life. We didn't earn having a universe that allows life. We didn't earn plants growing. These are all gifts too. And most cultures recognize that. And they saw nature as a network of gifts. No being can survive without the gifts of other beings. They even said the deer gave itself to the wolf, part of the reason that deer exist is for food for the wolves. So that is the understanding that we are evolving into right now. And so we need reminders, I think, from each other. Because there's still a lot of messages and a lot of institutions, for example, money, that encourage the opposite, that encourage us to maximize rational self-interest and not to act on our true desire, which is to serve, to express our gifts, that's why we're here, to express our gifts. So we have these institutions and habits that pull us back, but more and more now we see other people who are getting the same realization, maybe in different vocabulary, but people are understanding this, the truth of connectedness, and that our purpose is to give our gifts. And everywhere I go, I meet people like that. They help remind me that that's true, and that I'm not crazy for believing it. And so if there's one thing that I can offer you, and it's really this story of the connected self, where we no longer have to pit the heart against the mind, because serving others is irrational. And the more that we act on the new story of the self, the new story of the people, the more we create the conditions for a new kind of money system to take root and blossom. It needs its soil, it needs the psychic substructure, fertile soil to take root in. Because on a deep level, the money system is a manifestation of our consciousness. We've lived in a consciousness of separation, we've had a money system of separation. Now that's changing. We're being birthed into